Hi, welcome. It's time for Facebook Live or a town hall with me, Susan Maud Buchser-Lochocki, presidential candidate in this upcoming election in November. I am a write-in candidate. You can write me in every state. I will say some states say that they don't allow write-in candidates or they don't see me as official, but technically they cannot refuse votes by citizens. So you can write me in. Anyway, welcome to my Facebook Live and my town hall today. So we've been hearing a little bit in the news about immigrants that are legal or illegal doing things that are strange and not really following our rules. And they're seemingly sort of gangs of individuals too, which doesn't make any of us feel very safe. So I was reading about it before so that I could talk informally to you about the policies. And it seems that technically Congress is in charge of immigration and naturalization and things of that nature. So when we talk to the president or we hold the president accountable for things, it's actually not really the president's job. It's Congress. So this is why choosing wisely your Congress people is important, because they have a lot of power and they're not using it properly. So the thing is, our Congress is made up of only Democrats and Republicans only. And this is a huge problem because there are a lot of other parties out there. And in fact, to be in politics, you don't even have to be in a political party. That's not a requirement. So, however, we've been controlled over the last 100 years by the Democrats and the Republicans, and they're working together to keep everybody else out. And they're working with the media because they have money, and they're spending their money on the media, and the media is, of course, loving their money. So they have to treat the Democrats and the Republicans well, and that means that they cover only them. That's why you hardly hear about the Green Party. You hardly hear about the Libertarians, and you definitely don't hear about write-in candidates. So the way to get the best information is on Facebook, is on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, is on YouTube. YouTube is really the most neutral, I think, of all the things. So what you have to do is do your research. So for instance, for me, not every state is seeing me as a write-in candidate, but technically I'm a write-in candidate in every state. I'm a U.S. citizen. It's my right to run for office. I fulfill all the requirements to be president. So no state has a right to say no to me, and no state has a right to say no to any votes for me, and no state has a right to say no to their citizens who vote for me, saying, no, you can't vote for this person because you're a citizen. You have a right to have your opinion and your vote counted, whoever it's for, even if it's for Muhammad Ali. I know he's not around anymore, but you could vote for him technically. So I think, the states have overstepped their boundaries with a lot of things, and the elections are one of them. And so we need to, as citizens, take back that control. Now, from my previous conversations with you that they are definitely manipulating votes and putting fake names on this voter list that is unchecked by anybody other than the Democrats and the Republicans. So it's time to remove your name from that list. Become unregistered. That's the first thing. You can always register on November 5th. Even if they say that you can't, you can, because they cannot refuse a U.S. citizen from voting. Period. End of story. You have a right to vote. So you cannot restrict anybody from voting on that day if they're a citizen. But you have to be able to prove your citizenship. So if you've got a passport and if you've got a driver's license, then you're legitimate. If you don't have a passport, then it's difficult to prove your citizenship right on the spot, unless your name is identical to your birth certificate. That would be another way to prove your citizenship. But for most women, if you've taken on your husband's name, or if you got married, whatever, then you don't have the same name as your birth certificate. So that, for women, that might be difficult. But for men, that would also be a way to show your citizenship if you've got a birth certificate with your name on it. So anyway, it's time to fight back, because these people are not doing their job. Apparently I wrote to Biden about 2 months ago, and I said, what are you doing about the border? What is going on in Texas and down in the southern border? And he wrote back that the Congress has put together a concept of a border control. They're just not passing the documents. They're not passing the legislation because it's an election year and they don't want to pass it for some reason. So I don't understand the logic. We got to stop this baloney that's going on. We shouldn't have to wait for things to happen because it's an election year. We need to solve the problems now. So if people are not voting on that document because it's an election year, you need to fire them. They don't deserve your money or my money. None of our tax money should go to pay these people to work for us anymore, because they're not doing their job. They're letting the border be open and they're not doing their job. So fire your Congress people because they're not doing their job, and get new people. Look for write-ins, look for anybody, but if you want more gridlock, then Democrats and Republicans are the way to go. If you want to solve problems, then vote for somebody else. Vote for outsiders who care. And if you don't see anybody on the list who cares that you know about, then run for office yourself. It's not too late in a lot of states. You can get on their ballots, or not on their ballots, but you can be a write-in candidate. And you can bring the change to your own state. The other part of this whole thing is it's time to get the middleman out of the picture. We spend a lot of money on Congress, especially on the House of Representatives, and those people are not representing us anymore. They're representing their bank, their bank accounts. They want to have a nice house, and they want to be feeling like they're important. And every 2 years they got to be voted in again. So 1 year they work, 1 year they're campaigning. 1 year they work, 1 year they're campaigning. This is not acceptable. They're not doing anything, and they're spending a lot of your and my money on frivolous things, like they need an apartment in Washington, and they of course then need a car, and then they need to go out to dinner. So we pay for all of that, and it's enough. We don't need them because they're not listening to us and they're not voting for things that matter to you and me anyways. So it's time to fire the House of Representatives entirely. And then you and I and all of the U.S. citizens who are 18 years of age or older can start being our own House of Representatives. We are the House then. We will get votes sent to us 2 or 3 times a year, where we will determine the direction of our country, and we will determine if we are at war with somebody or not, because that's another thing they're supposed to be doing. But yet we're sending all this money abroad, but we're not at war. So I don't know what's going on there. But the other thing is, we need border protection, and we need solutions now. We don't need it 20 years from now. We need it now. And they're stalling because it's an election year. So let's just take out this whole election equation and let's move on to progress. And so it's time to change our style of government and get rid of this middleman called the House of Representatives. We need senators. We do need some representative in Washington to directly talk to and represent each state to the federal government. Yes, but then we become part of our government. So this is something we need to do. I will be addressing this early on in my presidency if I'm voted in as president. And we need to give the power to the people, because it states right at the beginning of the Constitution, we the people. It doesn't state we the House of Representatives or we the Congress. It's we the people. So it's time. We all have lots of information at our fingertips nowadays. We don't need a middleman. We're intelligent enough to make decisions for our own country. And so, yeah. So anyways, we got people supposedly, eating all sorts of things in all sorts of states. I mean, I was up in Vermont, and, I crossed, when I was driving around, I crossed a lot of signs that said deer or moose even crossings. And you know what? I saw no deer and I saw no moose. And I do know that about a month ago, there was a notice in the newspaper or online somewhere that stated that a lot of mom and pop gun shops have been broken into, or weapons have been stolen. So this tells me that, we might have some people hiding out in the forests who are eating our wild animals, or in Ohio, perhaps it's ducks. And, we got to get a control on who is in our country and who is in each state. I hold the governors responsible for that. They need to know who's in their state, and they need to know who's living in their forests. This is not funny anymore, folks. We got people doing all sorts of strange things right now, and, it's not working. It doesn't protect the U.S. people. We got Venezuelans, as we know, who went in and took over a apartment building complex in, I think, Colorado, was it? And this is just unacceptable. Gangs of men stroming around. So, it's time to call this a state of emergency, and we need to get our citizens trained at defense, and we need to call up the militia. We need to call up the National Guard. We need to see these people walking around on the streets everywhere and looking official, so that it's a deterrent to this bizarre gang influence and gang attacks. Then we've got bicycler gangs or something going on in Florida. So, we don't have to put up with this. Where are the governors? Where is the president? Where is Congress? Why are they doing this? And, I want to make a special plea to, I forget her name, Marjorie Greene, I think. I think she's a congresswoman of some sort. Anyway, she, she was trying to attack the FBI, the head of the FBI, saying that he's not doing his job, or the FBI is not doing their job. They have a website where you can report things that you see. And so instead of trying to sue him or get him out of office or looking like you're doing your job, why don't you just write the FBI and give them the information that you wanted them to have, rather than making a show of it on TV. Come on. Let's work together, not against each other. The FBI is doing a great job. The CIA is doing a great job. NSA is doing a great job. The Border Patrol is doing a great job. But if we constantly work against them and try to sue them and find out things they're doing wrong, that's not the way to go about it. The way to go about it is to give them the information they need to do their job. And all these different branches of our defense, they have websites where you can report tips and information that that will help investigations, so that we can solve these problems rather than pull important people from their jobs so they have to go testify. Let's help them do their job properly. If there is real corruption inside of those agencies, which there probably is. I mean, we got corruptions already everywhere. So that can also be reported, and that can also be taken care of. But if we're pulling good people away from their work just to be on TV, that's not acceptable, Marjorie. Just tell him what he needs to know. And don't make fun of him. Don't make him look bad. Just give him the information he needs to know so that we can actually solve these problems, So, yeah. Anyway, I was looking up how it works, the border. And like I said, Congress is apparently in charge. So, at first, I was going with this wall concept, but then I looked at how, like, Europe, being countries right next to each other and so many, everybody had to, like, protect their national boundaries. And so what they did was build houses directly on the border so that people can't come in on the border. And so that means, we got tons of borders that we could build, like, row houses. And so it's like a wall, but then people live in there. And then, if you hear somebody on your rooftop, then you call the Border Patrol, and then they're there. But you then are part of it. And so, we have a lot of homeless people. We have a lot of people who are living in bad homes right now who need a new place, or we have immigrants who want to be here and help out. We can put them into these homes along the border and then set up towns and have Border Patrol and the towns working together to make sure that immigrants are coming through the proper doors. I am very pro-immigrant, and apparently, I thought we were allowing millions of people in from different countries, but apparently we have a limit of 1 million green cards per year. Now, there are other areas where there are extra green cards, apparently, that they do for diversity or other things. But we only allow 1 million people supposedly to come in legally to become citizens. So this needs to be raised 100%. I mean, that should be from all the world, only 1 million? That's too less. We could easily take in 10 million each year of people who legally want to be here. So we definitely need to raise that. And then apparently the people who are applying for these green cards are relatives of citizens who are already here, or like people who are married, family, and things of that nature, or employer green cards, and then there's the refugee green cards. Then there's something like, 55,000 diversity green cards. So I think, going for diversity, we should definitely open that up to more. And yeah. So then we have that green cards are for people who want to become U.S. citizens. Then we have visas. And in there we have 4 stages. These are more temporary concepts where people are not necessarily wanting to become citizens, but they want to come to the U.S. So we have visas for tourists, visas for students, visas for work, and visas for immigration. And the immigration one is actually ultimately visas for green cards, because if you're going to immigrate, then you're going to be a green card holder, right? So I think for the visa part, when we talk about it, we can put the immigration part aside because that's green card. So we have tourist. That means people who want to come for 2 weeks or a month or three months. Because the rule is you can come to a country for 3 months, then you have to go out for 1 month, then you can come back in for 3 months, and then you're done. So 6 months altogether in a year, you can spend time in another country. And, the other thing that I want to say, I don't think a lot of U.S. citizens realize this, but so with your U.S. citizen nationality, being a U.S. citizen, you can also pick up other nationalities, which is what I did. So I was living in Switzerland for 20 years, and after 5 years, I was eligible to become a Swiss citizen. And I thought, well, it would benefit me and possibly my children if I was a Swiss citizen too, because then I can work anywhere in the United States and I can work anywhere in Europe. Although Switzerland is not technically part of Europe, it is in the middle of Europe, but it's decided to not join the European Union. So it's its own country in the middle of the European Union. It's sort of like the donut hole. And but Switzerland, so my citizenship of Switzerland has an agreement with the European Union that I can work anywhere there, and anybody in the European Union could work for me. And so that's how it works. And so, you know, it costs a little bit of money, and there's some forms you fill out, and then you're a citizen of that new country. So I am what they call a dual citizen. I have dual citizenship. I am U.S. and I am Swiss now. And then, so when I think a lot of times our government tries to convince you, I should say, like, politicians try to convince you that you cannot leave the country, that you cannot do certain things, but there's nothing wrong with going and living in another country and becoming a citizen of that country. You still can retain your U.S. citizenship. However, like Germany, for instance, is one country that does not allow dual citizenship. I don't know why that is. It's just so. You are either German or you're something else, but you cannot be both. However, children, until they're 18, they can be they can hold two citizenships. But at 18, they have to decide if they're going to be German, or so, for example, if they're going to be German or if they're going to be U.S. That they do have to decide. But as far as from the U.S. side, you can have many citizenships. You can even, I think, have 3 or 4. I don't think it's limited even at 2. So if you are living in a foreign country and you want to become a citizen there, you can. And you know what? We are not the only ones who take foreigners. All the countries in the world take foreigners. When I was traveling around in different countries over the last 30 years, I met a lot of citizens, not only from the USA living in those countries, but from many other countries living there, you know, from the Philippines and Chinese and Mexicans. Everybody's mixed and living all over. So, you know, the concept of people not taking on new citizenships in other countries is wrong. People are traveling. People are moving to other countries, and they're finding happiness there. So don't be fooled by what the politicians are telling you. You can be a citizen of another country and keep your U.S. citizenship. So when I first went to Switzerland, I was there on like a tourist visa. Then I got a engagement visa because I got engaged to a Swiss person. And then I got a permanent residence because I got married. And then I was a permanent resident of Switzerland. That meant that I could work if I wanted to. I was almost citizen, so like a green card. I had a Swiss green card. And then after 5 years, I did the paperwork and paid the fee, and then I became a full citizen. And now I'm a full Swiss citizen. I'm a full U.S. citizen from birth. And that's how it goes. So don't be intimidated by what the politicians tell you. It's all smoke and mirrors. And I'm sorry, you know, like I said, you know, there's a lot of corruption in the system. And we got a lot of problems, folks. So they're lying to us. They're telling us all sorts of things that just aren't true. And in Switzerland currently, a quarter of the population is foreign-born. A quarter. But yet they've still retained their national identity and their national habits and traditions. So just because foreigners come in doesn't mean you have to give up your traditions. Now, I don't know, the U.S. is big. We're a lot bigger than Switzerland. Switzerland is the size of West Virginia, okay, or Vermont. It's, I think, smaller than Vermont. So, what we're talking about is not a big country. The U.S. is bigger, and we are much more diverse. And so what is an American tradition in one part of the U.S., I should say, what is a U.S. tradition in one part of the U.S. is not a tradition in another part. And that's also okay. We don't want to lose our traditions as U.S. citizens in our corner of the United States. We want to keep the traditions going. I mean, perhaps it is time to change some, or maybe it's okay to transition to new ones. But we don't have to lose them if we don't want to. And we can always bring them back as well. And this is going on not only in our country, this is going on all over the world. And it's not something new, it's not a new phenomenon, but it's just easier to travel nowadays. So because of the ease of travel, we are confronted more and more with this concept of mixing of cultures and religions and traditions. And that's also okay. So the one thing that I will say is that because of the UN defining what an asylum seeker is, we created a Refugee Act in 1980 about that. And it's the one part of our immigration policy that I'm not really agreeing with whatsoever. And so the concept is asylum seekers are described as well-founded fear of persecution. So if somebody feels that they will be persecuted if they stay in their own home country, that they can be asylum seekers. So it seems that I thought something like this was in place, that people can only go one country away, and now they've sought asylum, or maximum 2 countries away, and they've sought asylum, because sometimes countries are working together. However, it is not so. There is no such treaty. So we need to write a treaty exactly on that, and we need to get it signed by all the countries in North America and South America. So you cannot come to some country in South America and go like 10 countries and then seek asylum. You already had asylum in the first country away from your home country that you went to. And maximum, like I said, 2 countries away from there. And so asylum was already established. You don't get the right to walk through 10 countries and then say, oh, I'm an asylum seeker. You already had your asylum in the first or the second country. So this is a treaty that needs to be signed by every country, head of state, in North and South America, 100%. And I would recommend this for all over the world, because it's just not acceptable that people can go through so many countries and then say, hey, the other part of our asylum seeker clause that we have, that the Congress put together, was that you have up to a whole year to decide if you're seeking asylum or not. I mean, what is that about? You get to test out the USA and then say, oh yeah, I'm seeking asylum here on day 360 of being in the USA? I don't think so. You declare asylum when you walk through the door. You come up to the border control and you say, I need to get out of Mexico. I'm seeking asylum. And then you're on the asylum route. Period. There's no other choice about it. So I don't know who came up with that concept that you get a whole year to decide. No, it's not. You are either a tourist, you're coming to become a citizen, you're a student, or you're working here, and then lastly, you're asylum seeker. So which one of those are you? And so, no, you don't get to wait a whole year almost and then decide, oh, I want asylum. No, it doesn't work like that. You are asylum or you're not, right from the very beginning. So what we need to do is we need to set up that border wall, but I'm going to say border town, and we just need to block it all off. We can put windows on the other side so you can see the Rio Grande, because I'm sure it's beautiful, and doorways through there so that if you want to go fishing or whatever, you can. But the real thing is, what we cannot do is keep it open the way it is, because we got people hiding out in the forest and in the grassland, and they're eating up our wildlife, and this is not acceptable. So we need to get people coming through the proper channels. Like I said, we need to increase the amount of legal people we allow into the country. I do agree that we are a country of immigrants, and that was our concept from the whole beginning. But we want legal immigration. We don't want illegals. Because once they break the law getting in, they're just going to keep breaking laws. And we don't have to remove them back to their home country. We have to remove them to whatever place they came from. So most probably of our illegal people came from either Mexico or they came from Canada. So we either send them to Mexico or Canada because that was their last known place before they entered the United States. We don't have to send them back to China. We don't have to send them back to El Salvador. We don't have to send them to Congo. We don't have to send them to the Philippines. We just send them to Mexico, or we send them to Canada, because that's where they came in from. So we don't have to fly them anywhere other than that. And therefore, if they were seeking real asylum from their own home country, whether it was China or Afghanistan or Peru, if they were seeking asylum, then they had it in Mexico or they had it in Canada. They didn't have to come to the United States. So then we need to stop people at the borders, and at the ground borders, just like we do at the airports. People need to get out. They need to come up to the desk. They need to fill out the paperwork and get like a day visa or a week visa or a month visa. We need to know how long they're planning on staying, or a 3 months visa, and that way we can track them better. We have them then in the system. We fingerprint them. We take photos of them. And they need to pay a fee. If they're coming in for a day, it's one fee, and for a week it's one fee, for a month it's one fee, for 3 months it's a fee. If they've got a vehicle with them, there's a fee for that because they're going to be using our highways. And, you know, if they're driving on like the New York State Thruway with a Mexican license plate, I don't know. Is New York State really going to go and fetch money from those people? Or on the Pennsylvania Thruway, is Pennsylvania going to mail them a bill later? I don't think so. So we need a contact in their home country. So in Mexico, where if they're coming from Mexico, they need a contact in Mexico. And that way, they will be billed, if they use those highways, they will be billed to that address. Because this is, it's just not acceptable that the U.S. people have to pick up the bills for for all these illegal people and the illegal people using our highways. So if people are here asylum seeking, if they are here to become citizens, there are two different tracks for those people too. So people wanting to be citizens, they are coming across well organized, they've got a job lined up, they know what they're doing, and the people at their, whoever hired them will be helping them become, move in the right direction, get them a vehicle, whatever the case may be. If they're asylum seekers, we don't have to provide them with a car. We provide them with public transportation, and they need to learn how to get around. What we don't want to do is also put all the asylum seekers into the same place from the same country. We got a big country, and we can spread the people out between all the different states. And so if they come in through Mexico, that's okay. Into Texas, they don't have to stay in Texas. We can send them to Nebraska. We can send them to North Dakota. We can send them to Las Vegas. We can send them to Delaware. We can send them to Michigan. We can send them to Kentucky. And then we have like an asylum house set up. And in each town or county, we can have like one asylum house set up, and then we distribute everybody into these different places. It should be a place that's got public transportation so that these asylum seekers, although we help them out, it's not our goal. We want actually legal immigrants coming in. And we can help those people too. We can have, we can help out the companies who are bringing in good people, who are going to be training them, and who will be producing things for our country. The asylum seekers too, when they come in, we need to get them speaking English. This is the most important thing. They need to speak English. That's the first thing. So we give them maybe a roof over their head, a tiny bit of spending money, and we give them English lessons. And then after about 6 months, then they could start into an apprenticeship program, and we can get them on their feet here too, being productive citizens. But they're not going to be productive citizens if they're hanging out with their own people, using their own language, and not fitting into our society. So this is not working the way it is. It's very simple little tweaks that we need to do that are not being done, and that's because the Democrats and Republicans have gotten us to this point. They are not trying to solve the problem. They just want to be voted in again because they like having their names in the newspaper and feeling important. And so it's up to you, the American people, the U.S. people. Do you want idols to be in charge, or do you want actually people who are going to do the job? So other countries set it up like what I just described. And so we don't have to put up with this whatsoever. We don't have to put up with the gangs. We can separate them all from each other. And as soon as if they decide to try to hide, and we can ask them, they technically don't have really any rights here. They only have the rights that we grant them. So what we need to do is make sure that they're behaving themselves. Otherwise, they could be deported, So we don't have to put up with this. It's time for somebody to stick up for you and me, the U.S. people. We are just being stepped on right and left, and it's enough already. And I don't hear a lot of the Congress people sticking up for us. So it's time to vote those people out and get a whole new crop in there of people with integrity, people who really care about you and me and the USA and our citizens' rights. So we put stickers on then the cars that say, and we give passes then to the people in their passports. We have to ask for passports. That's the other thing. People don't come across the border without a passport. So, but then they get stickers that say they're here for a day, they're here for a week, they're here for a month, they're here for 3 months. And period. We also need to have like 3 lanes at the border coming in. One is for U.S. citizens or green card holders who are already through the green card holder process. Then we need legal immigrants who are doing the paperwork and ready to come in. And then we need these stragglers who are, we don't know why they're coming in. And yeah, so we have 3 lines at the border, and we deal with it like that. And if the line into Mexico is 20 miles long trying to come into the USA, why do I care about that? That's for Mexico to figure out, it's their problem. They have to deal with the traffic on their side. It's not our problem. So let the traffic line up. U.S. citizens come in directly. Anyone who's not a U.S. citizen has to go back and get on that long line, period. And so, we don't have to make it so easy. So anyways, yeah, so asylum seekers and anyone coming into our country needs to get up to speed on English. That's emergency. So we need a lot of English speakers, too, at these places dealing with the asylum seekers. Because we need to get the people up and running with English, check out their skill level and see where they can fit in, especially the asylum seekers. And yeah, so we're at 13% of foreign-born people in our country, which is, not a lot compared to other countries. Like I said, in Switzerland, a quarter. So, 25% of the people in Switzerland are foreign-born. And I'm going to say that's the same for all of Europe now. So 13% is low in comparison. And I think it's time to, increase that. Foreigners are good people, and we want good people. But if we leave the open border, all we're attracting are the bad people. So we need to change it. And like I said, when I was looking at pictures in Europe, that's how they did it. They did it with language. So, we know if somebody's coming across a border from Mexico who's only speaking Spanish, we can probably pretty much guarantee they're not U.S. citizens. And so, we start there. Also from, Canada, although a lot of Canadians speak English, a lot speak French. So, that's another language. So Europe did it with language. They could really control their borders a little bit like that. But they also did it by building houses along the borders so that people could only come through the legal road, the bridge that would connect the 2 lands. Because usually countries were set up also like by water sources, by rivers. It's the easiest way. So, yeah, so I think, having open borders is fine. We are on friendly terms with Mexico currently. But we do need to keep an eye on the border, and we don't need to tempt people to do bad things, because we know people will do bad things, and we don't need to bring a criminal in, because if they're in illegally, they're already a criminal because they entered illegally. And once they've done something illegal, then what's going to stop them from doing that next illegal thing? So we want people who want to come in the proper way, because then they want to be constructive citizens, and they're going to keep themselves within the law, and that's what we need. So yeah, and the Border Patrol people, you ask for a passport. If you ask, are you an American citizen, or are you a citizen? First, they're a citizen of whatever country they're from. So saying, are you a citizen? Well, yeah, they're a citizen. They're just not a citizen of the United States. Then asking them if they're American also doesn't work, because if they're from South America, Central America, North America, they're Americans. We are in the Americas, so they are Americans. So that's also a bad question. You want to ask, where is your passport? I need to see a passport. Everyone has to have a passport to come into the country. If you don't have one, that means that you're an asylum seeker. So, asylum seekers are not necessarily ones who have to have a passport, but they have to prove that they're citizens of wherever they say they're citizens of. So, technically, they should have a passport. Yeah. And then, like I said, if you're an asylum seeker, we need to change this crazy law we have that lets them decide up to almost a year after being in the country if they want to seek asylum. No, you seek it on the first day or you're not an asylum seeker. That's it. So I think that covers a lot of my immigration idea. And Abbott, I'll be contacting you. I need to send you an email, I know, and deal with that. But for right now, you have it here. So maybe I'll send you a link to this town hall so you can find out how to run the border. Because you seem to be having all sorts of troubles. Now it turns out you had illegal people, non-citizens, over 1 million voting in the last elections. Are you asleep at the wheel or what? I'm sorry. Time to wake up, Abbott, Texas. You guys are a mess. Absolute mess. So, on that note, that's the end of my town hall for today. I had a few visitors, but nobody left any messages because they discovered I was talking about important things, and they left me alone. All right. So thank you for stopping by. You're probably seeing this then in the future. And if you have any comments, leave them below. My name is Susan Maud Buchser-Lochocki. I am running for President of the United States as a write-in. You can write me in your state when you vote in this upcoming election. And definitely the two things you have to write in are Susan and Buchser, because those are my two legal names, and you can include the other ones or you don't have to. So Susan and Buchser is the short way now. All right. So on that note, if you want to find out more about how I'm already working for you, that is Susan for USA.com. That's Susan, the number 4, USA.com. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I wish you a good day wherever you are. Bye for now.